Welcome to edition of the Unfiltered podcast. Ernest Speak Unfiltered. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2022. We have our second to last college football playoff rankings just released yesterday. It's second last because this coming Sunday we will have the official. We will know who are the actual playoff four for the college football season. Of course, remember this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, you name it, all across the board. So right now, as we saw this weekend, we had a little bit of shake-up. So your top four right now, Georgia 1, Michigan 2 with their win against Ohio State. 3 is TCU. 4 is USC with their win over Notre Dame. And then 5 and to me, real quick, the 4 is really easy. I think people knew that this will be the 4 no matter what. You can haggle the order. I know some people saying that you can argue Michigan should be number 1. I don't think so. I think Georgia has a better resume than Michigan, but if you want to make an argument, go right ahead. I know there's some that was saying that maybe TCU should still at 4, USC maybe at 3, but whatever. To me, the most interesting part of this whole argument is 5 and 6, and that's 5 Ohio State, 6 Alabama. I know there's a lot of narratives out there about that Ohio State shouldn't even be in the top 5 or 6 because of the fact that they didn't have a good resume. But the fact of the matter is they only have one loss, okay, the entire year. And if you're going to take Ohio State out of 5, okay, I'll hear arguments for Alabama at 5. But the thing is, too, Alabama has 2 losses. So after they get past Alabama, who else, 7 through 10, which I believe 7 is Tennessee, 8 is, I think 8 is Penn State, which the committee is obviously weighing that team heavy, which actually helps Ohio State's chances. Whether you agree they should be number 8, that's another argument, of course. Number 9 is Clemson. 10 is Kansas State. If you're taking Ohio State out of number 5 and sub Alabama, I'll hear the argument. I kind of don't agree because Bama has 2 losses, and he has to have two close losses. But again, Ohio State has 1 loss to Michigan, albeit a bad loss. But that's about it. And the Penn State win, while we may not agree that Penn State should be ranked that high, that is the argument. That is the reasoning why Ohio State's 5. Ohio State's in this thing. And I'll say to lesser degree, and I said it on the podcast last week, Alabama is kind of in this race still. It's not over yet. Now, I think personally, based on the matchups this weekend, with Georgia playing LSU, they'll win that game. They'll lock it at 1. Michigan will beat Purdue. They're gonna lock it at 2. TCU's playing Kansas State. That's the one game that can possibly tilt things. But I think as long as TCU's get blown out, they should be fine. If they lose, but lose in a close game to Kansas State, who's number 10, that shouldn't hurt as much. You would think anyway, but again, do you trust the committee to do the right thing? I don't know. USC, if they lose to Utah, which is anything's possible, maybe that can be the open door for Ohio State. I think at this point, and it's obvious, it's fair to say that USC is the most vulnerable team of the two, and I think you cannot rule out Ohio State and Bama getting in. If both TCU and USC lose this weekend and lose in variable fashion, like let's say they lose comfortably, of course, I think the argument made that Ohio State and Alabama get in as 3 and 4. Now, I don't want that to happen. I don't think it should happen. But we all know that the committee has a hard-on for Alabama and for Ohio State. Because despite the resume or lack of resume, because by the way, both schools, we say how Ohio State didn't play anybody. Alabama. Where's Alabama's quality wins this year? Ole Miss? I mean, who else they beat that's of quality? Like, they don't have any quality wins. So one could argue that, and yes, we agree that Penn State shouldn't be that high, but Penn State, number 8, that counts as a quality win for Ohio State because of where they're ranked. Them also being Notre Dame in week 1 helps. Notre Dame is ranked number 21, currently in the playoff rankings. That helps their case. And again, I think we're not appreciating something here too also, in addition to all this arguing about the positioning on that. Parity has officially arrived at college football. In the same way in the NFL we have parity, In the same way we have parity in the NBA, especially too. We're seeing more parity throughout sports. Baseball's parity is here too. College football, a sport rather, that has been dominated by 3 or 4 teams for the last decade or so. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, maybe Georgia at times, maybe Oklahoma at times. All of a sudden, we're seeing new blood now. We haven't seen USC in a spot in quite a while. TCU, new kids on the block. Michigan, up until last year, wasn't even in the conversation because they will lose at Ohio State every year. And now Georgia is becoming the constant now. So we're seeing real parity now in college football, and I don't think we all appreciate that enough. And what we're seeing is also with all these 3-loss teams, with Kansas State's and all this, we're seeing now why, if you think it's crazy now, just wait till we get to the college football playoff when they do it with 12 teams in a couple of years, whenever it happens. I can't wait for that. So, look, I think ultimately all 4 teams, my prediction, everything will chalk. I think Georgia will do their job. Michigan will do their job. I think TCU, despite a tough team against Kansas City, will do their job. And I think USC will do their job. These teams are just too close now, and they can feel it. They can taste it. They can taste the college football playoff. It'll be a great thing. I hope it does happen. I'm torn a little bit, too, because I don't mind seeing chaos just for the sake of the narratives, and it gives me content to record here, of course. But at the same time, I hope, based on rootability anyway, that the top 4 teams we see in the college football playoff right now, rankings currently, as of last night, I hope it sticks the way it is on Sunday. Like I said, we will react to this on Sunday when we'll do an emergency unfiltered podcast when they announce the rankings on Sunday, right after it. And at that point, we'll just react as is. As long as these teams do their job, they'll be fine. But it will not shock me. It will not shock me if USC slips up, TCU slips up, or both, that the committee tries to shoehorn both Ohio State and Alabama. Just because of, obvious reasons. But we'll see. We will see. But that's it for me on this Unfiltered podcast on a Wednesday. We'll hopefully have another one tomorrow. So, toodles.